When the Clone Wars dropped back in 2008, I was one of those people who thought,
"That's stupid."
who wants a kiddie show about the Star Wars prequels, right? But after I gave it a fair watch, they showed me how wrong I was. Since that time, Clone Wars has become my go-to for Star Wars content. Not the movies, Clone Wars. But 13 years and 7 seasons later, I would have to say that the Clone Wars ended on a very high note. However, we can all agree that the show wasn't perfect and even left a few plot holes in continuity. For me personally, there are 3 stories in particular that I wish could have made it into the Clone Wars because they would have either A, added context to a beloved storyline, B, answer a question about Star Wars in general, or give closure to some of our favorite characters. So today, we're going to go over what those 3 stories are and how well they would have fit into the show as a whole. I'm going to drop some pretty heavy info here, so if you like to be surprised like I do, this is your official spoiler warning for all things Clone Wars related. Let's jump right into it. Number 3, the Battle of Kamino. No, not that Battle of Kamino. The original Battle of Kamino, or Kamino Uprising, was first depicted in the game Battlefront II. No, not that Battlefront II, the dope one. You know, from 2005? Yeah, you just had to be there. This battle occurred shortly after the Republic transitioned into the Empire. Basically, once the Empire gained control of the galaxy after the Jedi Purge, they placed harsh guidelines and restrictions on every planet they possibly could. You know, usual Empire stuff. This included the planet Kamino, who we all know as the creators of the original clone army. To fight back against the harsh Imperial rule, the Kaminoans in secret generated a new fighting force from the DNA of Jango Fett. In short, Emperor Palpatine wasn't really feeling that shit, so in response to this new army's creation, he sent the 501st Legion, led by none other than bounty hunter Boba Fett himself. His mission was to retrieve his father's DNA and to prevent any future clone production. Although the anti-clones fought bravely, they were swiftly taken down by their older, more experienced brothers. And in the process, all of the Kamino cloning facilities were destroyed and seized by the Empire for their own personal use. Now, what makes this battle important is that it answers an age-old Star Wars question, which is, why did the Empire stop using clones in their army? Most fans know the answer to that question by now, but back in 2005, a lot of people weren't really sure whose faces were under those helmets. Yes, there are technically plenty of reasons why clones were no longer used, but because of this incident in particular, Emperor Palpatine believed that the clones were too susceptible to corruption and would eventually turn against the Empire. As a result, most active duty clones were discharged and the Empire began recruiting biologically born soldiers.
The bounty hunter left after the battle was over. He said something about tracking down a smuggler on Tatooine. After the Kamino Uprising, the Emperor decided that an army of genetically identical soldiers was too susceptible to corruption. Future troopers would be cloned from a variety of templates. Though the 501st itself remained pure, the rest of the Imperial Army gradually became more and more diverse. We never really got used to the new guys.
Technically, this event would not have fit into the Clone Wars timeline since it takes place a bit after the events of Season 7, but I personally would have enjoyed if this story got the animated treatment in the Clone Wars format. I think it would have hit a lot of emotional beats since this is a story about clones who were sent to slaughter other clones. It could have struck the same note as the Embarra arc, you know? And even though I highly doubt we'll ever get to see this story in action, the Bad Batch show could touch on the topic since it will specifically cover the time period between Republic and Empire, so fingers crossed. But look into the story if you haven't, it's really good. Number 2, Son of Dathomir. What if I told you there's a story where Darth Maul fights General Grievous and Count Dooku, captures General Grievous and Count Dooku, teams up with Dooku to face Obi-Wan, and gives his former master Darth Sidious one last showdown on Dathomir? Yeah, that freaking happened. And it happened in a slept-on 4-issue comic book run titled Son of Dathomir. If I'm being honest here, Darth Maul-focused story arcs are my absolute favorite in the Clone Wars TV show. Watching him return from the dead, team up with his brother, and take over Mandalore was one of the main reasons why I started watching Clone Wars in the first place. Speaking of Clone Wars, if you remember toward the end of Season 5, Darth Maul successfully captures Mandalore by killing Pre Vizsla and claiming the Darksaber for himself. However, the victory was short-lived because not even seconds after Darth Maul sits on the throne, Palpatine shows up at his front door to remind him that there's only one grand plan and there will be no rivals. After one of the most electrifying battles in the series, Sidious kills Maul's brother Savage Opress and then goes on to capture Maul because he, quote, has special plans for him. Sadly, the show never really touched on this event again, but that's the best thing about Son of Dathomir. Not only does it explain how Maul escapes from Sidious's prison, it places Maul exactly where he needs to be before the Siege of Mandalore starts and showcases all the hardship he went through just to get there. Maul's last confrontation with Sidious is a major payoff as well. Seeing him and Mother Talzin give it their all for the sake of revenge is phenomenal. I won't say exactly how it ends, It's tragic, but it gives insight specifically as to why Maul constructed his final plan the way he did during the Siege of Mandalore. Maul never wanted to lure Ahsoka to Mandalore, or even Obi-Wan like we originally thought. No, his plan was for Anakin Skywalker, mainly for the purpose of killing him, but not to save the galaxy or anything noble like that, only to rob Darth Sidious of his key apprentice and main Imperial enforcer. Maybe not the best plan by Maul, but one thing we can all agree on is this story would have been way better than the Martez sisters arc. Number 1, Dark Disciple. Out of all the stories we went over today, this one was the closest to actually happening. Originally slated to be an 8-episode arc before the Clone Wars got cancelled, Dark Disciple focuses on Jedi Master Quinlan Vos and former Sith apprentice turned bounty hunter Asajj Ventress. It's a real letdown that this story never made it to our screens because there's so many good elements to it. For one, the main question it answers is what happened to Asajj Ventress after the last time we see her in Clone Wars. 2, we get an unlikely pairing between Ventress and Quinlan Vos, who surprisingly have really great chemistry with one another. And lastly, Ventress gets to shoot the fair one with Count Dooku, and if that wasn't enough, she gets to do it with her new yellow lightsaber. There's a bunch to cover with this story, but it begins with Count Dooku unleashing a violent separatist attack on the planet Maroni, which causes the lives of not only Republic troopers, but numerous innocent refugees. As a result of this savage attack and no end in sight to the Clone Wars, the Jedi Council feels that there is no other options, and they come to decide that the only way they can end this war is to assassinate Count Dooku once and for all. That's right, kids, the Jedi Council put a hit out on someone. Even though some Jedi are against this decision, the Council ultimately elects to send Quinlan Vos for the mission and suggests that he teams up with Asajj Ventress due to her extensive knowledge of Count Dooku. Things get crazier as Vos not only works with Ventress on multiple bounty hunt missions, but he eventually ends up in a romantic relationship with Dooku's former apprentice. See what I mean by good chemistry? Another thing I love about this story as well is that it showcases how powerful of a Sith Dooku actually was. When Vos and Ventress finally cross paths with Dooku, they are both overpowered, with Vos getting captured and Ventress barely escaping with her life. While Vos is in Dooku's custody, Dooku reveals the harsh truth that Ventress, and not himself, was the one who killed Vos's former Jedi Master Thone. Things go from bad to worse as this information not only turns Vos to the dark side, but encourages him to fight as Count Dooku's newest apprentice. Of course, when Ventress attempts to rescue Vos, she is devastated by his turn and is forced to inform the Jedi Council of his current status. To be honest guys, I really wouldn't feel right spoiling the end of this story here, but it's definitely worth looking into if you're unfamiliar. What makes this story truly great though, is its focus on the character's motivations. When we're first introduced to Asajj Ventress, she's known as a basic one-note villain who only lives to serve her master. The Clone Wars TV show did a really great job in displaying Ventress's growth after she's betrayed by her former master, but if anything, Dark Disciple solidifies it. It also goes to show how one bad decision from the Jedi could cause so much tragedy, and decisions like these going forward would be among the main reasons why the Jedi Order eventually falls. But that's all I got for you today guys. Big thanks to everyone for watching this video. Which Star Wars stories would you have rather seen make the Clone Wars? Make sure you leave your answer in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Not only does it help the channel a whole lot, but it also makes me smile. See? Lastly, make sure to hit the notification bell to get updates on when I post new videos. Since we're getting a lot closer to the Bad Batch series, I'll mainly be focused on related content such as Clone Wars and Rebels. But if you have any other Star Wars suggestions on what I should do a review or a countdown on, please let me know in the comments. But thanks again for watching, I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you.